Friends, this year, as we are approaching Nelson Mandela Day, we acknowledge on top of the general COVID gloominess, the passing of Zinzi Mandela and another name I'd like to add, Thomas Madikwe Mantata. Mantata started his journey as a high school teacher in Soweto in 1967, and he became known as a strong educator who encouraged political debates among his students. One of them is future President Cyril Ramaphosa. And he is remembered as one of the UDF leaders that were convicted in the 1985 Delmas treason trial, together with Reverend Frank Chikane and Papa Molepa. And in New South Africa, he is remembered for his service at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and the South African Human Rights Commission. I didn't know him, but his memory was commemorated by the Sacred Heart College family, to whom we both belong. As for Zinzi Mandela, as many had said, she will not only be remembered as the daughter of her father, but as a struggle heroine in her own right. In a way, her parents chose the path of activism, but she didn't get to choose. She was born into these conditions, enduring years of intimidation by the old regime, along with her sister Zanani and her mother Winnie. In the gallery of shared moments we remember, there is a place of honor to that day in February 1985, when Zinzi Mandela read out Nelson Mandela's rejection of President P.W. Botha's offer for conditional release from prison. May the memory be a blessing to us. There is an old proverb saying, as a generation of leaves on a tree, such a generation of people on earth. It is true. Our days are passing shadow, says the psalmist in Psalm 150, Psalm 44. But the memory prevails. Yet for the memory to prevail, we have to fulfill the commandment, Vedibarta bam, you shall speak of those things. Be reminded of them. In Hebrew, zikaron is a memory. We say zichronam livracha, the memory be a blessing. And so we mazkirim, we remind, we commemorate their names and their deeds. So this week we fulfill the commandment of remembering. For to honor Mandela Day, I've dedicated both our Monday Cheder class and the Wednesday ITJ class to themes of South Africa. With the youngsters, we've watched a talk given by Mr. de Klerk, given soon after Madiba's death, in which he reflects on his journey, his long walk with Nelson Mandela. This is a very moving speech in which Mr. de Klerk reckons both the warm relationship, but also the stormy parts when the difference between people and political parties were strongly felt, and the role that leadership, mainly Madiba's leadership, had played in the crucial moments. With the ITJ class, we've watched a movie called One Day After Peace, a brave and emotional documentary made by Robbie Demlin, a Johannesburg-born Jew who had moved to Israel and later lost her son, David, who was serving at the IDF. At first, she attempted to initiate a dialogue with the Palestinian who killed her child, and when her gestures was rejected, she embarked on a journey back to South Africa to learn more about the country's Truth and Reconciliation Committee's effort. It's a journey from a deep personal pain to a belief that a better future is possible. She's asking, can the means used to resolve the conflict in South Africa be applied to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? Obviously, we believe that South African experience of nation building is relevant to the Middle East, given all that is far from perfection here, and given all the differences between here and there. If we wish for the memory to be alive, we need to engage with it and to see where we stand today versus where we had been in the past. We can celebrate the achievement, and we should acknowledge all that we did not yet achieve. In any case, I've said it before and let me repeat it again, South Africa is a miracle. Those who lived there during the late 80s and the early 90s surely can recall how it was so far away from desired, with harsh, frightening moments, such as the break of the Cordeza II negotiation in September 1992 and the assassination of Chris Hani in April 1993. These were very dramatic days, but what matters is that goodwill and trust overcame the powers of violence. What matters is that on the 10th of May 1994, Mr. Mandela was sworn as the President of the Republic. After generations of conflict and division, foundations for a new, peaceful, non-racial nation were laid in the form of a constitution which enshrines the value the struggle was fighting for. Mr. de Klerk says, I quote, "Ironically, my greatest achievement as a leader was on 10th of May 1994 when President Mandela was inaugurated. Few leaders have ever laid down their responsibilities of office with greater sense of accomplishment that I did on that day," end of quote. Friends, this is a very uncommon statement to hear from a statement, and indeed, the transition of South Africa to democracy is yet, given all that had went wrong, a shining example of reconciliation and justice. In our weekly parasha, we conclude the book of Numbers. We have reached the plains of Moab at the east side of the river Jordan, and Moses will be delivering his final speech, which is the book of Deuteronomy. This conclusion parasha is called Mas'eh, journeys, walks, paths, reflecting on the long path, long walk from one place to another in desert at a journey to the promised land. The metaphor to us looking on the journey of South Africa is clear. I'd like to share with you the following. When one reviews the list of places mentioned in the parasha, the description of the journey as appears, it doesn't correlate with the stories presented so far. Mainly, it doesn't correlate with the stories during the book of Exodus. The names are just different, and the trail of the Israelites is presented in a different way. The description as if the journey is taking place is different. And this is also a metaphor for where we are. Because when we look back on the struggle years, we see them in a certain way. But surely, if we were asked at the time of the events, you would answer differently than in hindsight. This is only natural. Our memory amends things, and we do tend to look backward with nostalgia. After all, these years had their beauty. But here we are in 2020, dealing with unpredicted and unprecedented challenges. May the spirit of the struggle days and the love, devotion, and effort invested so far in the project of New South Africa prevail the powers of despair and dismantlement. We are in the midst of the 3 weeks in which we remember the destruction of the temple, a calamity who came on the Jews because of our shortcomings as a nation. Failure is always an option whose price is high and painful. We must come together, joining hearts, hands, and effort. The remembrance of the long way to freedom will give us strength, so we would stand to the moment, be who we can be, and do all that we can do for this beautiful, beloved, generous land, South Africa.